George Tyrus Murdoch was once the loudest presence in the ring, a towering figure whose fierce persona commanded attention. But behind the strength and bravado, there existed a quieter, more complex man. A man who wrestled not only with physical opponents, but with personal demons. Born on February 21, 1973, in Boston, Massachusetts, George grew up navigating the complexities of being biracial. With a mother who rejected him for his race and a father's world that offered little refuge, George was left to face life's challenges alone. His early years were shaped by rejection, and this fueled his drive to succeed. It was a journey that took him from college football to wrestling, where his size and strength became his weapons in a battle for acceptance. But beneath his public persona, he was always searching for something more: peace, love, and belonging. From football to wrestling, a journey of survival. George Murdoch's path to wrestling was not one of glory or fame at first, but rather a story of survival. A promising football player at the University of Nebraska at Kearney, George's dreams of a professional career were shattered by a ruptured appendix and subsequent nerve damage. For the first time in his life, George found himself at a crossroads, unable to rely on the athleticism that had always defined him. Wrestling came into his life in the early 2000s, not as an opportunity for fame, but as a way to regain control of his life. He signed with WWE in 2006 under the ring name Gilla and began his ascent through the ranks of developmental leagues. Wrestling became a way to channel his pain, turning it into something that could make him both stronger and more resilient. By 2010, he re-entered WWE with the persona of Brodus Clay, embodying a larger-than-life character that masked the deep struggles within. The Funkasaurus, a mask of redemption. In 2012, George Murdoch's transformation into the Funkasaurus, a colorful, dancing character, was meant to be his big redemption. It was a role designed to entertain, to make people smile, and to heal the wounds of his past. But behind the vibrant mask, George was far from healed. He was exhausted, struggling to reconcile the performer the world saw with the broken man he was behind the curtain. His time as the Funkasaurus was a reflection of the internal battle he fought daily, pretending to be something he wasn't, all the while masking the deep emotional scars left by years of rejection and pain. When WWE released him in 2014, George, at 37 years old, was once again left alone. The man who had spent years performing for the world now faced an uncertain future, one where fame and titles had lost their meaning. Reinventing himself, a fighter's resolve. Despite WWE's release, George didn't give up. He reinvented himself as Tyrus in Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, a brutal character that felt closer to his true self, someone who had been broken, who had fought through pain, and who was determined to survive. This persona felt like a reflection of his real life, a man who would do whatever it took to keep moving forward. Over the next few years, Tyrus rose to prominence, becoming a dominant force in the National Wrestling Alliance, NWIA. He won the World Television Championship in 2021 and the World Heavyweight title a year later. But with each victory, Tyrus felt emptier. The accolades, the belts, the fame, none of it filled the void. He had all the external markers of success, but the silence that followed each triumph weighed heavily on him. Finding peace, the woman who changed everything. At the height of his wrestling career, George met Ingrid Rinck, a woman whose story was not shaped by fame, but by her own battles and victories. Ingrid was no stranger to hardship. Born on April 24, 1981, Ingrid grew up in a world where she had to fight for every opportunity. At 15, she found fitness and it became her anchor, a lifeline that provided her with control in an otherwise chaotic life. By 16, Ingrid was teaching fitness classes, not for fame, but for the discipline and control it provided her. However, her true battle began when her son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Instead of succumbing to the challenges, Ingrid channeled her strength into creating Sensible Meals, a meal prep company that helped others navigate similar struggles. Through sheer determination, she not only rebuilt her life, but transformed herself, losing 150 pounds and finding a new sense of purpose in the process. But her journey wasn't just about physical transformation, it was about finding balance, which would soon intertwine with George's life. A shared journey of healing and transformation. When Ingrid and George met around 2014, neither of them was looking for a perfect love story. Both had already fought their personal battles. George was a man with walls made of iron, while Ingrid had spent years fighting for others, often at the expense of herself. Their bond wasn't immediate. It grew slowly, built on trust, patience, and understanding. Ingrid saw beyond George's imposing wrestling persona and saw the man who limped off the ring, struggling to find peace. George, on the other hand, saw in Ingrid a woman who had built her own empire from survival and perseverance. Their connection wasn't flashy. It wasn't about the fame or the spotlight. It was about finding someone who understood what it meant to fight, to survive, and to heal. Becoming a family. A new chapter. In 2014, George and Ingrid welcomed their daughter, Georgie Rose, into the world. This marked a turning point for George, a man who had spent years searching for purpose in titles and accolades, now found his purpose in the laughter and joy of his child. Ingrid, who had already proven herself as a businesswoman and mother, saw George transform into a father who brought love, patience, and care to their family. Together, they blended their families, creating a new dynamic, a modern-day Brady Bunch. It wasn't always easy, with emotional flare-ups and the pressures of fame, but they stayed united. Through the years, their relationship became a steady anchor, a testament to their resilience and their unwavering commitment to each other. It was a slow burn, but it was real, grounded in the shared understanding of pain and healing. The proposal, a promise of forever. In 2020, the world came to a halt under the weight of the pandemic. For George, it was the first time he could slow down and reflect on the life he had built with Ingrid. He realized that his greatest treasure wasn't the accolades or fame, it was the life he had with her and their family. In a simple, intimate moment during the uncertainty of the pandemic, George surprised Ingrid with an emerald engagement ring. It wasn't a grand spectacle. It was a quiet, heartfelt gesture, marking a promise he had already made long before the ring was given. Their relationship had already endured years of ups and downs, and by the time George proposed, they had already been living as a married couple in every sense. The proposal wasn't about perfection. It was about acknowledging the love, the growth, and the commitment they had already built together. A legacy of family and peace. As years went by, George and Ingrid's relationship only deepened. Their daughter Georgie excelled in her equestrian competitions, and George, the once isolated fighter, now found pride and joy in cheering from the sidelines. His weekends were no longer spent in the loud arenas of wrestling, but in the quiet of the farm, watching his family grow. For Tyrus, peace had replaced the need for constant applause. Family became his focus, and the noise of the past slowly faded into the background. Even as he continued his work as a commentator and author, the most important part of his life remained rooted in the farm, his family, and the quiet moments of connection that had once seemed elusive. Conclusion: love, peace, and family first. The journey of George and Ingrid Murdoch is a testament to the strength of love, the power of resilience, and the beauty of finding peace after years of struggle. They are proof that true strength doesn't come from fame or accolades. It comes from the quiet moments, the family bonds, and the ability to rebuild when life knocks you down. In the end, George and Ingrid didn't need the spotlight to validate their love. They found their greatest joy in the quiet moments at home, where their family thrived, and where they had finally found the peace they had spent so many years searching for.